Hey, I'm Sith King.
And I'm Sonic Sons.
We're the Rambling
And
Reviewers.
today we're looking at the second season of the Kulipari Netflix show. Or just called Kulipari. Dreamwalker is the name of the second season.
Yeah,
Yay.
you might remember the first one, which we actually enjoyed more than we thought it was.
Yeah, it's got some fairly interesting writing there.
Yeah, it's
a cartoon, but it was
okay,
fun.
well, I mean, there's no excuse. Batman the Animated
Yeah, that's
Series
true,
we gushed
yeah.
over. Kulipari has interesting writing styles. In the generalities, they can be very good. Like exploring tones such as war, the glory of battle, but at the same time the costs, societal expectations.
You got a hero's journey thing going on where our main character Daryl doesn't have the power of poison. They don't think he'll ever succeed, and so naturally he does, which that has been done before, but with enough detail that it was interesting to watch.
Yeah,
There was some politics among the villains, right? Whether they were really on the same side
when you get
or
to
not.
and yet when you get to the personal level, the writing kind of suffers a little bit. Some of it coming across as amateurish at times.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe.
I don't know. It's just that the writing is good in almost every other place, so that when it falters, you kind of notice it more.
Well, we already reviewed our first season with an overall positive, despite the flaws here and there. And now we're in the second season, and it's been a while, so we walked into it and like, oh wait, who was everybody again? There's that main guy. Daryl's now the Blue Sky King.
Yeah, because of events from the first season. And in the last season, the villainous Scorpion, voiced by Keith David, Marmu, King of all Scorpions, well, he died after being drowned in the creation of a new settlement, Nova Australis, which is at Ayers Rock. And it's got like natural springs, and it's a nice place to be, and they're trying to set up kind of a federation type thing where everyone can come in peace.
There's even some scorpions on their side now.
Which, is a nice change of pace, It's so easy to just typecast the Scorpions as the always chaotic evil race, but even in this season, in the villainous city, we see evil frogs, so it's good to see that they're avoiding that. Mm-hmm. One criticism that I often have is that, well, it's really easy to create a race that is only evil for evil purposes. Series like Mass Effect, they try to avoid that, which I like. Hell, even Avatar: The Last Airbender did this, and that was just with firebenders as opposed to, an entire separate species.
Yeah, that's a really well-written cartoon.
Yes. Khoa towards the end
Also got good.
Yes.
See our very detailed coverage of the first two seasons of how much that sucked.
Yes. Anywho, so we appreciate that. And one of the changes is that there is a new generation of Kulipari, or warriors, being trained. Daryl's siblings...
whatever their names were. Let me go find that
We're
for
looking.
you. Tharta, Thuma, and Teepee.
Each one kind of fitting into the role of the big guy, the smart girl, and the chick. I don't know.
I guess.
I mean,
their
maybe
power...
smart girl, but
Yeah, I don't know. So,
personality-wise.
Certainly a big... I was also going with their powers, because one guy's literally the big guy. That's his power. The other ones shoot spikes and turn into stone. Neither of which is a very girly power, which is fine.
And they're joined by a scorpion who wants to become a Kulipari, which is weird because I thought Kulipari were only frogs. But, I mean, I guess there was nothing in the lore that I know of that directly contradicted that. But since he had venom, he could, I guess become a Kulipari?
Well, heck, I guess Daryl manages to contribute despite not having poison.
I'm not saying that he couldn't contribute. It's just that I thought it's clear that
specifically
Daryl is not a Kulipari. I thought Kulipari was a frog exclusive thing.
No, maybe it's just a super-powered warrior.
Yeah, I mean, we see other warriors use venom in the series. We see other warriors in the series use venom without being Kulipari.
Well, let's call it a super-powered good guy warrior. Like, according to the law of the Sky King, that makes it okay, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that it would be nice to get some clarification on the exact definition so that we know what differentiates regular Kulipari from, say, all the other bad guys or good guys who use venom without being Kulipari themselves. Mm-hmm. One of them is, as I said, is a scorpion who wants to become a Kulipari, and he's being trained they're all being trained by old Jeer from the last series, a.k.a. really grumpy frog dude.
Yeah. Who is deliberately pissing off Stinger all the time.
Yeah, although Jeer and Stinger's relationship is kind of weird over the course of the series, because Stinger seems to view him as sort of a father figure in some aspects. But then at the same time, Jeer is both saying you can become a Kulipari and you should go and live with the Scorpions. I mean, part of that is just the racism that frogs have against scorpions, and okay, the scorpions did manage to kick the frogs out of the amphibians. I can understand there being tensions. It's just odd when the nominal good guys are the ones espousing the racism.
Well, he wasn't doing your classic, like, get the hell out right now thing. He's like, I want you to be strong and powerful, and you can be a Kulipari and all that, and I believe in you, and you have the ability to do it. And when there's a brief moment where people suspect that Stinger has turned on him and poisoned old Jeer, Jeer himself is like, no, he wouldn't do that. He's too honorable.
Yeah, so but he does it in kind of a weird racist way. He's like, he didn't do it because he's a scorpion. They do things, everything like head up and up front.
You're mixing up the Klingons with your Romulans, you guys. You gotta.
Yeah, I mean,
only a Romulan would poison old Jeer. Crossover. No.
Yeah, or just step on them because, if these are normal frogs at that size. Anyways.
Yeah, but I kind of appreciate that they make Stinger's position kind of complicated. Because you could do the really simple version, which is all scorpions are evil. Or you could do the step-up version of all scorpions are evil except this one guy. Which is a trope known as my species doth protest too much. Mm-hmm. And then it could be, okay, you're not evil for being a scorpion, but it's possible you're somewhat different and you need to figure that out for yourself, and you could easily play that lesson wrong and it sounds all racist or something, but you could also play it in a more way of finding out where you fit in the world in a positive sense.
I'm kind of unsold. I think that was the angle they were going for, but at the same time I didn't really like the implementation.
No, I can understand that,
because they seem to place a lot of value on race as opposed to, I don't know, the fact that these are people who are capable of making decisions on their own. Mm. It's like, you're a scorpion, therefore these are some cultural traits of yours. If anything,
Jeer shouldn't have been saying that as much as the other scorpions he meets, the ones that are like the nomad scorpions, let's call them.
Yeah.
You think those will be the ones who are more indoctrinated into this whole racist thing.
Yeah, essentially there's two plot lines running through the series. The first involves the old cast. Well, okay, it involves Daryl and one of the two Kulipari we met last time, and an albino mute lizard who just uses bad sign language.
He manages to talk somehow. And they have to go rescue this guy. What was his name?
Dago?
Dago?
No, go up.
Dago. Go up on
Khoa.
Oh, wait. Well, where the heck did we get Dago from?
It was somewhere in there.
Okay. So, Khoa, they keep saying this rather vaguely, but I assume that Khoa is the Dreamwalker, if that's the name of this season. Because the whole idea of Khoa is that he's got some mysterious power that no one else has that could, tip the balance in the general fight between good and evil.
Except, and here's where I think that this series kind of falls apart, the Khoa part is the weakest of them, because I've seen this sort of thing before, and it never ends well. Either the character is forced to ascend to become a god, which I don't really like as a trope. They go insane and go evil, which I don't really like as a trope. They die because the force of the battle between good and evil is too much, which I don't really like as a trope. Or they just become kind of this Jesus figure who kind of becomes the author's pet, which seemed to be the direction that they were leaning in, and I don't think they intended that, but he's this Kulipari who wasn't raised with other Kulipari, and he has super special magical powers that don't work the way that the rest of Kulipari powers work as we understand them. I don't know, it sounds kind of like the background of a Mary Sue character.
It is hard to balance a guy like that. You're right, because half the plot lines you just mentioned are ways to make sure this awesome, powerful character doesn't get to use his awesome powers, because it would upset the balance of the story. Oh no, he ascended to godhood, or he died, or there's whatever. And the other thing is, no, he gets to be awesome, and thereby dominates the story, and then, like, well, there's no one else's room to be a character
Why do you
anymore.
have the rest of the characters if you have this guy?
Can fix everything. So, we'll see how far that goes in the future. As far as this storyline, this season is concerned, he's been kidnapped by this warlord named Darkhan, and is capable of freeing himself at any moment, but Darkhan is clever enough to be like, hey, we'll murder your family, 1,000 miles away if there's any sign of trouble from you.
No, it's meant to show that he's an all-loving hero because he also threatens to murder all the rest of the prisoners.
Well, that too. But also, Darkhan is clever enough to be like, okay, I can deal with this guy even though he's got awesome powers. That ends up working out, though, and they're like, hey, it turns out, your family's fine. And we can rescue all the prisoners at once. Also, pufferfish grenades.
Yeah, that was the part where I really stopped taking this character of Khoa seriously.
Pufferfish grenades.
He apparently has the power to merge the dream world, which is also the afterlife, or the bridge between our world and the afterlife, with the real world, meaning that he can make dreams real, and so he creates pufferfish that explode.
I mean, the way he explained it is that he was born of water and rain and pufferfish are both water themed, so I guess he got to combine them. I don't know.
Yeah.
Also, explosions. That's water themed, right? Water does that.
Oh god. Yeah. So, pufferfish grenades.
That comes much later in the storyline, but yes.
Okay. So, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. So the Khoa plot starts with the geckos coming, and they're like, please help us, Blue Sky King, for this guy has super amazing powers, and he's my son through adoption, and he was taken by Darkhan.
Yeah, how does that work? I guess I must have captured some passages right at the beginning there.
Yeah. I mean, because, like...
He's got
See, that's the
pufferfish
problem.
grenades.
Sometimes there are things that just don't make sense unless you just drop them in.
Without having a chance to think about it.
Yeah.
It would be nice.
There's certain fantasy worlds that work like this. Like, if you find a world where everything takes place on floating rocks, you have to wonder, how did these rocks get floating? And if it's magic, then you have to ask, how and why was this done? Mm-hmm. And if you can't explain that, it's a drop-in world. Mm-hmm. Because there is no way that this society evolved to be like it is. It had to have been created. Yeah. As opposed to a more naturalistic society.
Yeah,
which I
it would be nice if Khoa had powers only at like certain phases of the moon or like certain times. So they captured him while he was powerless, and then later on they.
Yeah, I mean that's a classic trope. Phases of the moon affect someone's powers. Anyways, so they go there, and at the same time, there's another subplot going on where page up.
Oh, sorry. Stinger.
No. I'm still on the Darkhan.
Within the Darkhan section.
Okay. Let's see. Darkhan. Where's the mercenary dude? It's down in other characters.
Kilara.
Kilara, who I think is personally one of my favorite characters, has come from the first series. He was the one who delivered Khoa, I think, but it's not. No, I know he wasn't.
No, this one he was captured. Khoa was captured directly by Darkhan, but he had helped Marmu in the first series. That's what you mean.
Yes,
and we bribed him to get the hell out, so he did.
Yeah, we bribed him with a pearl. Well, he shows up at Darkhan's place with a pearl and a gift for Darkhan. Marmu, who somehow has more lives than Mario.
Woo!
Yeah, Marmu's alive again.
It's me, Marmu.
EO. And and Darkhan takes the pearl because Darkhan's kind of a dick.
Yeah.
And says that their debts are kind of paid now, but he intended to... But, Kilara wanted to leave with the pearl.
So, yeah, Kilara meant to just sell the pearl in Darkhanville, whatever that was called. He meant to just pay off his debts with Marmu, who was... that comes up later with the spiders, how Marmu came back.
Yeah.
But he has so many... He's the second time he's been resurrected now, if I have this correct, right? Didn't he?
Yeah, if not the third.
If not the third.
It was the second time. And they still have not fixed his face.
Yes, they can't.
Even though he was brought back this time by the god of spiders. They didn't fix his face. It's insane. Anyways.
So he gets robbed by Darkad, and he spends the rest of the season getting his damn pearl back because he wants that pearl.
Yeah.
Crossover? No.
Crossover?
I was thinking Steven Universe.
Okay.
That'd be fun.
Oh, dear.
Well, I'm sure she wouldn't like being treated as an object, but anyway.
Yeah. I don't know. Some of the pearls seem like they might be into it.
Oh, dear.
Well, I don't mean sexually.
No, I know what you mean. Okay.
Anyways,
So he sets up this whole plot where he's going to sneak into the palace and steal the pearl.
With
his
two
minions, Skink and No-Go, yeah.
Anyways, so they do so, but set it up so that Daryl and his friends break into the palace at the same time, so that Daryl's escapades can be a cover for his theft, and then he'll blame the theft of the pearl on Daryl.
Having previously done this little speech when you knew Darkon's minion was an earshot to be like, what? No, I'm perfectly happy to give Darkon my pearl, but I do hear that Daryl wants to steal it. It was a little obvious. But
okay, well...
But he had, several other layers to that plan, getting Daryl involved.
Yeah, it's things like this, where, the dialogue there is, really ham-handed.
Yeah, you're right.
But at the same time, the plot and story that they set up and the actions of the characters are pretty smart.
Right, because he's got to get Daryl on board and also get Falg on board, who's a spider that worked for Jera in the first season, and she wants to get in to kill off Marmu, and Daryl wants to get in to go save Khoa, and then Kilara wants both of them to get in so he can get in separately at the same time, so he can go to the throne room, and he has to trick some of the guards and beat up some other guards, and then deal with these traps at Indiana Jones style, and then face a freaking squid monster that guards the throne. And Skink has to go and get the box, so they have the pearl, and then the box turns out to be empty, and then Darkon shows up to be like, ah ha ha, but then he manages to get Darkon immobilized so he can grab the pearl off of Darkon's person, and then that pearl ends up being a fake anyway, because apparently Darkon thought of all of this. And wow, there's a serious gamesmanship in your evil plans here, back and forth.
It's like that. What I like best about that episode, though, is that at the same time that this episode, the previous episode was showing Daryl and his companions getting into the palace, and some unexpected events start happening.
Yeah, there was an earthquake, and we just thought the writers just lazily put that in. Oh, I guess there's an earthquake now, it's more dramatic. And then the second episode starts, and you and I thought, did we click on the wrong thing? This is the first episode, this is the episode we just watched.
And what happens instead is that it's happening at the same time from the point of Kilara, and it shows the earthquake is Darkon being all rage monster and shit. And some of the events from Daryl's story happen to affect Kilara's story. The alarm that Daryl triggers ends up screwing over Kilara, and all the guards up and about trying to stop Kilara end up severely inconveniencing Daryl.
So that's pretty good plotting.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. Eventually, they manage to free everybody, and Marmu escapes because why would we want to track the Darth?
Well, we should mention on that, one of the interesting things about Daryl's side of that, though, is they do the whole episode breaking in to get Khoa. And not only do they not get Khoa in that episode, but they also lose one of their own men.
They lose two of their men.
The lizard and who else? The white lizard got captured.
Wait, didn't they take two Kulipari in with them? And then what?
Yeah, but they got out with
one Kulipari.
Wait. They lost somebody, at least.
Okay, they lost the white lizard.
I remember that part, because he did this, heroic thing of closing the gate as they were leaving,
wait, no, the other guy was already captured. Never mind.
Okay. So, we found it bold, in a good sense, that they spent a whole episode on the heroes actually failing, and actually getting themselves into a worse spot. And you're like, that normally doesn't happen. But okay, now where do we go? And then they have to go to this whole gladiator thing and rig it so they can talk to the other guy who's in the pits, who's being forced to fight, and And then talk to Khoa at the same time, and then there's several layers to that.
Yeah. I still consider this a weaker plot because ultimately this whole plot ends up setting up for another season instead of serving its own immediate needs. And it spends a lot of time focusing on Khoa, who mostly just sits around saying, I can't use my superpowers, while being taunted by Jara and the good turtle guy from the first season.
Yeah, I'll grant you there's not a lot of character development. Like, Kalara is cool, but he hasn't changed much by the end of the season. His two minions might have a lesser opinion of him, because he does abandon them at one point.
And ultimately, it feels like it's setting up Khoa for a lot, and there's a lot. If they don't live up to it, that could be a problem. But if he does live up to it, but in the wrong way, that could also be a problem.
Yeah.
As we said.
The guy's name is Zava, apparently. I'm just reading the Wikipedia, the White Lizard. Sorry.
Then, Falga was earlier helping them, and she's a spider nightcaster, meaning she does dark magic and stuff. And it turns out that in between the last season and this one, she works for the spider god.
His name is Naradan.
Naradan, who is the god of all spiders and their strongest nightcaster, and brought back Marmu because Marmu is actually a scroll created by the Rainbow Serpent, and if you gather all the scrolls, you'll be able to rewrite reality. And they want to do this to make the world a paradise for spiders. To which I just have a few questions. One, why would a person be a scroll? And why not something that doesn't have free will or get sick or die? Two, why do you need an entire world for spiders when you could just, I don't know, raise an island off the coast, tell everyone to fuck off, and just live there in a spider paradise? Three, do you really need... You are a god. Why don't you just make an army of spiders and just... take over a large chunk of the outback and say, go away.
I'm guessing this is more of a Princess Mononoke style god than a rewrite reality style god.
Well, I know not rewrite reality style god. It's
okay, so you can't just make an army out of his will.
Well, no, I mean make an army as in get a bunch of spiders together and say, hey, obey me, I am your god.
Right. I guess there's not as many spiders out there as he would like.
Okay, I wonder how a god could fix that. I don't know, maybe say, hey, spiders, start fucking.
I'm sure that would be
You're a god.
The most memorable line of the whole season is the god just shows up and urges all the spiders to mate. Yes, that would be...
I mean, I don't know. There seem like there's a whole bunch of solutions to your problems that don't involve, rewriting reality. That seems like one of those powers that could very easily go wrong. Like, even when I'm... Okay, I have ADHD. And before some of you say, oh, well, that's just so overused, I was diagnosed when I was 5. At one of the most important events of my life, specifically my sister's wedding, there is footage of me trying very hard to focus on the wedding before getting distracted and looking out the window and staring at boats. That was me trying
the boats.
hard as I possibly can to stay focused on an important event in my sister's life. And I'm guessing rewriting reality would take more concentration than that. I don't want to see what reality would be like if someone loses their concentration, has to go to the bathroom, or gets hungry.
Or just summons up boats everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have that much faith in the will of people to not think... Okay, I can have faith in heroes to, do the heroic last stand, or stand against the darkness. Not have the purity of mind to stand still for hours at a time and keep their mind focused only on one thing, and not say, oh god, I have to pee.
Maybe some sort of monk hero.
Okay, yeah. Maybe. Aang could do that.
Yeah.
But he's gone through training and shit.
Yeah. Also, he's going to put penguin sledding all over the world.
Yeah.
Penguin sledding!
See, and I'm not against... Okay, it just seems like this is a lot of effort, a lot of energy put into something that is easily attainable without, altering reality.
The whole first season involves a spider kingdom that eventually, blows up and stuff, right?
Yeah, so rebuild that!
Okay, but I could, especially with the arrogance that might come from godhood, I could see a guy being like, hell, let's just bring out the big guns.
Yeah, but if you're already a god, I mean, what's the problem with appointing him as God King and just saying, okay, you're in charge of the kingdom now, and him saying, okay, let's fix this shit up? I mean, if it's a matter of leadership, you have a god.
Well, obviously he is already in charge of the crew he's with. Which, by the way, did Jera ever reference this guy?
I don't remember.
Because she seemed to be the Spider Queen and didn't mention having a god that would presumably rank above her.
Yeah, so I don't know if this is a retcon or something, or if he's
retcon-ish.
a young god, or...
Just faking it. That would explain half of what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean...
He's a powerful Nightcaster, we know that much.
I mean, and considering the spiders build their stuff out of webs, and they make their own webs, I can't help but think that rebuilding the Spider Kingdom would be really easy. I mean, it might just take a while, but I gotta figure that would take less energy than bringing Marmu back from the dead.
I want to know more about these scrolls, and I don't think... is it meant to be that Marmu had, like, always been a scroll and didn't know it? Because I had the impression that, we somehow plucked the scroll energy out of the ether and attached it to Marmu because he was the best, like, receptacle or something.
Okay, but if you're a spider, why would you not try to find some sort of spider receptacle that would be at least semi-loyal to you and not literally willing to murder you at the first opportunity, which Marmu does?
I know. Yeah, why did Nahadan make himself a scroll? We didn't know the rules on scroll making.
Yeah.
Guys.
I mean... The maidens in Ruby had rules for why you couldn't just make it anyone. It had to be female, the last person the previous maiden was thinking of, and under the age of 30 in order to become a maiden. Fine. I think those rules are fucking stupid.
Magic is ageist and sexist. No.
Yeah, because if you think of, like, your 2-year-old daughter, I'm thinking that suddenly a major part of the world's defensive measures has suddenly been is suddenly completely, inoperable while they're in diapers.
To be fair, you haven't fully caught up on Ruby, and I'll just say this wasn't set up on purpose as a world defensive measure. It kind of happened accidentally.
Yeah, you accidentally gave someone the ability to go Super Saiyan, start fires with their minds, and create tornadoes.
Pretty much, yes. Yeah, it's a funny story.
How the fuck do you accidentally do this? How do you... That is not a... That's not a case of... That's a bug. It's not a bug. That's a... You literally are saying that... so this ability you gave me, I seem to be able to shoot fire from my mind and control tornadoes. That's not a bug. It's a feature. That's not how that works. Nothing works like that. Nothing ever randomly works out like that from a glitch. Nothing does. My Hero Academia, I can at least buy that the reason why Izuku cripples himself every time he uses One for All is because he's too weak. That's a bug, but it's an understandable bug. How the fuck do you screw up the magic spell enough that, there's a small chance that if you think the wrong way, everything dies in fire? There is, no reason for this. The instant that was identified as a bug, you should have recalled the whole Maiden program and done customer support promising a full refund of all things. My god, customer service in Ruby sucks.
It generally does.
Then again, this is a world where they decide to use they take perfectly functional guns and then use them as clubs and swords. I'm like, really? You have a gun! Use the gun! So, anyways.
We're going to be reviewing Ruby later once we're caught up on that. I'm ahead of him. That's why I know these things.
Yeah, remember when we reviewed Season 3? Guess who hasn't seen any more?
It's been a while.
Seriously, this is why I like All for One. One for All. It's not All for One. All for One is a douchebag.
Yeah, One for All.
Yeah. Because at least the rules are silly, but they make sense. I need to pass on this power through you, through my DNA, so eat this hair. The person I would have just thought it would have been a little more symbolic if he just, cut his hand open and said, drink this.
Ew. I mean, that would be...
Oh, yeah, because eating hair is so much better.
It's less likely to have bacteria in it, I'm guessing.
It's hair!
I know, but
They were in a junkyard until 5 minutes before All Might did that. Plus, All Might's hair has got to be sweaty as shit given what he was going through at the time. So no, do not give me that blood would be...
more infectious.
Plus, this is already a world where people's biology includes engines in their legs, bird heads, and taser powers that turn your brain into mush temporarily. This is not a world where things make sense.
No. Yep.
Anyways, Heck, even Avatar makes more sense as a way to pass on powers.
That's true.
Wait, how did we even get on this subject?
Let's see. Maidens.
Yeah, okay,
which
never
came
mind.
from the... a bunch of we were talking about Khoa.
I don't know. Shit.
So, check the tape to find out how we lost track of that conversation.
I guess somewhere around my rant of how it's not a... Ozpin apparently tried to sell, it's not a bug, it's a feature. To pyrokinesis. Seriously. That is... Ugh. I need a customer support line.
So the other plot line going on is...
wait, no, we're not done with
we're not done with the Khoa thing? What else
no. Okay, so they brought Marmu back. Marmu is...
Oh, yeah, the Marmu thing. That's how we got on that.
Yeah, oh yeah. Anyways, Marmu gets brought back to life again instead of, I don't know, any spider who was remotely loyal to the god.
Yeah, no, sorry.
And they shoved the scroll into Marmu, except that 2 Kulipari blew up the castle and defeated the spider god.
See what I'm telling you? How easy it is to get defeated if you're a spider god.
Yeah, okay. Then, so Kilara came along, he found Marmu and gave him to, Drago?
Wait, who's Drago? What are we talking about?
Villains.
Darkhan?
Darkhan! Jeez, I was thinking How to Train Your Dragon. Anyway, gave him to Darkhan, and that's how we got that whole plot into this. So Marmu has been sitting in the cells this whole time, except when he's brought out to fight in gladiatorial matches. And for some reason, he has Tron lines on his armor now. And when the series, at the end of this season, Marmu just kind of wanders off into the rubble of the city. And I think we might have skipped an episode or something because there's the raining pufferfish, and then everyone was leaving in the next episode. It isn't even like Darkhan was defeated or anything. He just kind of jogs lightly away, and then the city is in rubble the next episode. And don't say that the pufferfish destroyed the city, because 1, that is a fucking stupid sentence, and anyone who tries to defend it should be shot. And 2, and more importantly here, there was no establishment that the city was destroyed, or that this guy was overturned. There was no final battle or anything. He just kind of walked away. I kind of assumed that he was going to be sitting back in his throne room and that the heroes would have to go fight him or something.
Or he's plotting his revenge. I think what the writers got onto was they imagined the whole thing was about Khoa. So once we had Khoa, we left the city and we skipped all the aftermath. And they should have had more aftermath.
And then another Kulipari who lost her venom back in the first series has shown up, except now she's apparently poison ivy and controls vines. And she comes up to the city and does absolutely nothing to it until everyone leaves, at which point she sits down on the throne and acts all smug and stuff without saying a single word and making vines everywhere.
A bunch of vines everywhere. I don't know.
Meanwhile,
she just really liked that chair? Or?
I don't know. They said that she found dark powers or something, but it was so vague in one line that I didn't even really remember that this was the same person they were talking about. And the only thing she's really done is walk up to city, sit in chair, smirks, is frog.
I guess she shows up in season 3.
Meanwhile, Marmu is in a different part of the rubble of this city, and he starts painting symbols on the ground and laughing hysterically. The diabolical plan of Marmu, the guy who was the big bad of the entire first season, is voiced by Keith David and is one of the most badass-looking animated characters I have seen in a long time, is essentially finger painting and giggling to himself.
I can only assume he's just summoning dark powers or something.
But at the same time, when your whole plot in the season is sit in cell despite claiming that no one commands you, it's not really impressive when all you do is finger paint on the ground.
He did have a cool gladiator scene. But
yes, he did, but it wasn't... It felt like a letdown for the Marmu that I really liked in the first season.
Villain decay, I suppose. I mean, Darkhan gets to be the main guy now, and now Darkhan's gone, so...
Yeah, or
he's sort of gone, his town is gone.
So vague that we don't know what happened. Meanwhile, in the other storyline, the triplets and Stinger are learning to be Kulipari, and old Jir is getting sicker and sicker. And eventually he collapses, and it's revealed that, dun dun dun, he was poisoned. And because racism is still prevalent, even in this new utopian society, everyone initially blames
Stinger
because He's a scorpion.
I mean, this lasts all of 2 minutes, though, before Cheer's like, no, you guys.
But the reason he does it, as we said before, is kind of racist. You wouldn't do it because you're a scorpion. That's not how scorpions work. Like, thanks, asshole, you're not helping. It's like saying that because I'm white, I have to hate black people, or that I have to... You know what? I'm going to stop right now before this gets worse.
Please do not quote this out of context, anybody.
Yeah, it's like saying that because you're of one race, you have to like the certain stereotypes of doing things. Now, I admit that because they're different species, there might be genetic predilections towards certain actions.
Yeah, but in thematic terms, it feels weird.
Yeah, especially when they're sentient, meaning that there's a choice for people to do things. I mean, granted, there's still things that you can do to humans, and they will be forced to do it. Like, you know, you poke our gag reflexes, we'll throw up. But,
Right.
but for the most part, our behavior is our own to shape, or shaped by experiences in our past. Not to mention, you know, our own choices in the here and now. So it just kind of bugs me anytime fiction does this, where it's like, you're of this race, or this gender, or this ethnicity, meaning that you have to act in this way. So...
Well...
And it does... Okay, they'd been bumping into Marmoo's brother, Commander Pigo. Wait,
no, they haven't.
Wait, no.
Pigo went with the crew and died, by the way, en route to Darkon's village.
Which sucks, because I liked Pigo.
Yeah, I mean, he did get kind of an epic death, but it was like, oh, he's gone now.
Not really.
Well, he got like a...
He got a death
they
where
got
he
a
was
moment.
clinging to the edge of a...
He, like, let go so that Daryl could get away safely.
Even though, like, as I pointed out, in the time it's taken him to give this final speech where he's clinging to Daryl, he could have easily just pulled himself up using his tail and his other claw.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like these guys are not jacked in the upper body. I'm betting he could do like 1,000 pull-ups in a day. Let's see, who is the other? I
don't think they have that name here.
Well, anyways,
so that guy.
One of Marmoo's old lieutenants or whatever, who I keep thinking looks like Transformers animated Starscream, has been subtly tempting Stinger the whole time, saying, "You're a scorpion. You need to be with your own kind." Which, fuck you about that.
And speaking of, he's got kind of an interesting bit there where he's saying the scorpions need a leader. And without a leader, we're just going to kind of wander the desert because we don't know what else to do. And they're invited to come to Nova Australia. So you just live with us. There's plenty of food and water. And it's like, no, we don't want to do that because you're not a proper leader. And we only recognize scorpions as leaders. And apparently only some scorpions. It was almost like
why aren't you a leader if you're like, if you know all the things that scorpions like and don't like?
I without them saying so out loud, it appeared to be a noble blood type of idea. Like, it had to be Stinger because he was Marmoo's son, even if he was illegitimate.
Yeah.
But he didn't say that, like, directly out loud. Like, I needed a blue blood to be our leader or something.
Which, okay, if it's a different species, that can be a thing. I've seen that done before. Like, it's not... It can be rather interesting to consider from the perspective of people with, say, our cultural values who think that, oh, this one group is dominating the rest of them, when in reality it's a biological element that leads to them dominating, and that it's perfectly okay in their culture.
Yeah, that's a mysterious thing to get involved in, though, with the thematic ideas. But yeah, you mean, you're trying to...
But this, I don't know.
Or you could even just think of it as the scorpions believe themselves to need a leader culturally, and they don't realize they have another option. Which is interesting. Like, oh, gee, in another 100 years, they might realize they can live differently.
So the lieutenant basically comes along and says, okay, I know where to find this thing that you need, this type of crystal flower that only grows in heat. You need this to cure the poison, and I can take you to it. In reality, this is both to, try to play the role of tempter to Stinger some more. And the plant is growing inside the caldera of an active volcano over a lake of lava. I mean, like, why? How? Okay, this thing blooms in heat. They said this thing blooms in heat. There are real-world plants that do bloom in the wake of forest fires because that's just what
everything
they do.
else is dead, and they've been evolved to take advantage of the opportunity.
Yeah, but there's a difference between, okay, a seed pod will crack open after, a raging inferno passes through, to growing 3 inches above a lake of lava. No. And, apparently there's an active volcano within walking distance of Nova Australis, and no one is concerned about this at all?
I mean, it appeared to be a few days' journey, but yeah.
Yeah, still, I would be concerned. I don't know. Anyway, so it's here we learn why the Scorpions need a leader. Because when they're on their own, they are very, very, very stupid. No. You think we're joking. We're exaggerating. No, literally, they start out with 5 Scorpions. They lose 2 to a rock slide that they can see coming and try to jump off the cliff to escape. Then one more falls into the lava. And when Stinger asks, how many Scorpions are there? Why didn't you bring more to help us? The lieutenant looks at the one remaining Scorpion and is like, well, this is it. There were legions of these things in the last series. I can only imagine that what happened in the few months or years since then must have been just Volume 1 of the Darwin Awards. Hey, there's something in me eye. Pick it out with your stinger. Ah! Oh, I don't know how that happened. Look, I was just doing this. Ah, myself.
Well, and
he must have dropped like fucking flies.
Okay, so weirdly enough, later on, there is a legion of Scorpions, even though Lieutenant Man seemed to indicate that, literally only the 3 of them were the ones that were left. So it was contradicted later, in the series. But okay.
Yeah, but god damn, man, Scorpions are dumb. Okay, but at the same time, there's another plot running through this, which is that the platypuses, and I love any series that has platypuses just because they're so underused in fiction and they're so freaking weird. The spiritual leaders of the platypuses have determined that the rainbow serpent's evil twin whatever thingy,
the devil of this universe,
apparently, because
Queen Cobra,
because apparently we need to have a clearly delineated God and Satan analog, even though this world existed fine with having a mysterious God figure that did not have a Satan analog.
Yeah,
and that her children were up and about, and they're these gigantic black rattlesnakes. And okay, question: why did they have to be spiritual rattlesnakes? Why can't they just be rattlesnakes that are waking up because no one has lived in this area for a few years, and every so often these rattlesnakes just wake up and go on a hunt? I mean, it has to be, there has to be religious significance behind this.
That would be so fun if it turned out there was no religious significance. Queen Cobra doesn't exist. The guys have screwed up their whole religion and we need to, revise it now. I've never seen that in a show. It's either, they don't mention God at all, or they bring in the gods, and our beliefs are accurate. It's never oh, wait, we added on, 6 more people to the Pantheon 100 years ago for fun, and that wasn't true.
Okay. Actually, I have read a fan fiction where that happened.
Okay.
It's actually a pretty good one called A Man of Iron and its sequel, A Crash of Thunder.
Oh, this is the one with the Game of Thrones.
It's a Game of Thrones, yeah, but with Marvel characters added in. And when Thor comes in, he says, all the old gods, you really messed that up. I mean, you gave someone else my hammer, and the drowned god that's, the water people worship. Yeah, that was just a joke because he was hitting on one of my fellow gods, and she threw him in a lake.
Okay, that is fun.
Which, considering that literally every one of those water people, every time they see Thor, is about to shit their pants in terror when they see him. And he's just like, it was a funny story that happened at a party. We get along great. You should come to the next one. Of course, because he's Thor, he's the ultimate bro, and he's just so cool and nice to everyone. But he does point out that, all of your gods are just slightly off. They're us, but yeah, you screwed some things up. Don't worry, you're mortals. We forgive you.
So anyway, these snakes attack the village, and we have to incapacitate them without hurting them because they'll piss off their mom, apparently.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's. I forgot about that part. Never mind. If killing them would wake up Satan, then yes, okay, I can understand.
So I like having an interesting combat challenge there. Something we have to fight differently and stuff. Okay. That's cool. And Stinger helps out with that. Good for him.
Yeah, and Stinger brings back the really stupidly durable plant thing, and they manage to cure Jeer, but it turns out that Stinger needs to go out into the wilds to figure out who he is, and he comes back and he's the new leader of all scorpions, and it turned out the lieutenant dude was the one who poisoned Jeer in the first place. So even though Stinger was like, I must accept my destiny as leader of all scorpions and stuff, he kills Lieutenant first using his poison, which he swore he'd never do because it would change who he was, meaning that we potentially have a new dynamic in the Outback. Although why the hell he doesn't take his crown and then go, okay, everyone, listen up. We're moving into Nova Australis and we're going to end all this bullshit right now. Because that would have solved all the problems in like 2 minutes.
Yeah, I can only assume that there's some things even the leader cannot make them do because they're dogmatically obsessed with certain ideas.
Which doesn't make much sense because, and here's the thing, if you have people unable or unwilling to do something, you need to tell us why.
Because we're scorpions, that's why. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you can't just say because I'm a scorpion.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, the story of like the frog and the scorpion, fine. It's in their nature. Yeah. Fine. That's great, but that's a fable about how things don't really change and that sometimes being kind will bite you in the ass, which is a terrible motivation for anyone, terrible story for anyone, and basically encourages you to be assholes to each other and not try to rise above your nature.
Fables have a dark side, anyway.
Anyways, the other problem with this is that, well, these are people. The frog and the scorpion are animals driven by instinct. I mean, yes, the frog tries to take a thing across the whatever.
Fables don't have to make sense.
Fables don't have to make sense, but when you're dealing with characters in a lived-in world that have to react realistically to outside stimuli or base their experiences on that of the past instead of in some nebulous now that you've only ever existed in, they have to make sense. So why he doesn't just gather all of the scorpions and say, okay, congratulations, you have a new job. You're going to be an army for Nova Australis in case anything bad ever tries to attack us, like all the other things that have ever attacked the amphibians.
So it would make a little more sense if the scorpions deal, just culturally, is they want to conquer other peoples, right? And Stinger could take charge, knowing full well that if he asks them to be peaceful, they're going to say no and just overthrow him that same day. So instead, he tricks them and makes it look like the Nova Australis people could, curb stomp them, and says, we need to retreat for now, and we'll...
Invade the lava!
Invade the lava!
Well, I solved the Scorpion Army problem.
Yes.
They are dumb.
Yeah. It would be neat if he had to pull off trickery. And then it would be neat when he's saying goodbye to, what's her name, one of the triplets. Tippy? Okay. If he was saying, like, yeah, I really would love to stay here. You guys are like family, but this is the best thing I can do to protect you guys. And you can't come with me, because if they see me acting friendly with frogs, they will overthrow me in a day and a half, because they're quite willing to do that if their leader, violates the sacred tenets of their code or something. Mm-hmm. And that would make more sense. Instead, it was framed more as, I gotta find out who I am. And who I am is being the leader of this group that isn't really nice to me, and one of them tried to kill my only father figure, and I don't really get along with them, but that's who I am.
And they're really stupid.
And they're really stupid, but that's who I am for some reason. I mean, it still felt, kind of moving, but you're like, you think about this. It doesn't fully add up exactly.
So that's a very badly told version of Kulipari, Season 2. I mean, it wasn't the worst.
No, it's still worth watching.
It was still worth watching. It's just, I don't think it measured up as much to the first part. And I think part of that is because I'm pretty sure they were in virgin territory here. The first season of Kulipari Army of Frogs, well, that was all about... That was adapting a book series.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You think they outpaced the book at this point?
Well, no, they finished the book.
Okay, yeah.
By the time Nova Australis is settled, the books were over.
Right.
As far as I know. Admittedly, they're books for children, and I don't really know where to find them, nor am I interested in finding them. So this is just speculation on my part that, well, since they didn't have as good of an outline to work with, maybe they didn't know what they were doing?
Maybe. I mean, you know, again, it wasn't like a complete mess, and it's fun actually to see a bit where the main character accomplishes his whole arc, becomes the king, founds a new land, defeats the evil army, the villain is dead, and yet we found more story to tell after the fact. And yes, there are all the flaws we just listed in that story, but still it was fun, and I like the idea that, hey, being king doesn't necessarily mean happily ever after. There might be other challenges to face, and we'll face those now, and there could still be stuff worth exploring here. Exactly.
It's a very open world, and I do like worlds where there's still plenty of story opportunities just because the main story is over. I think the biggest failing of this is that it felt too much like it wasn't trying to be its own story and more like it was trying to be set up for the next story.
I bet you the first season got like really good reviews, and they're like, oh, how many more can we make? And then they just sort of plot, trying to make something big, trying to set up for the next story, which I hope they've planned what they're doing and aren't just winging that.
I mean, I'm not saying that necessarily every story needs to be set up for a future story. It's good to set up stuff ahead of time. It's just that it shouldn't outweigh the need for a story to stand on its own. Mm-hmm. And sure, you could argue that because it relied so heavily on these characters like Marmot and Daryl or whatever, it couldn't really have stood on its own. But but even if I went into this blind, I could still understand what the character dynamics were. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, we'll see when season 3 rolls around, and whether all this stuff that they're planning adds up.
Okay, well, I think we're good.
Yeah.
I'm Sith King.
I'm Sonic Sons.
Signing off.